video earlier and it was cutting in and out. So I went back and watched it. It wasn't very good quality, so I decided to do it again. As you can see in the title of the video is Reflections of a Racist, Sexist, Anti-Gay, Right-Wing Bigot. Okay, so why did I title it that? Well, on July 4th, many of you may have heard that, our liberal neighbors and friends, people we share this country with, decided to boycott 4th of July, Independence Day festivities because they're aggrieved, it's a fancy way of saying butthurt, right? Still about this Supreme Court decision, the SCOTUS ruling in the Dobbs case. And, you're seeing all kinds of stuff, boycott Independence Day, boycott sex, women withhold sex from your husband or your partner, and, on down the line. And just the normal and expected ridiculousness of the political left. And so what they did in several locations, including Athens, where we live and minister, is they decided to do another iteration of the Reproductive Justice rally, to gripe and to bellyache and to bemoan, the cruelty. We're going back to the Bronze Age with this draconian ruling of the Supreme Court and Clarence Thomas. So, of course, being the loving street preachers we are, this is our calling, right? So we decided, and there were 4 of us, it'd be nice if a lot more people who claim to be pro-life would actually get out there with us. Contact me for details. But 4 of us, representing 2 different area churches, decided to show up and just preach the gospel. We have Bible tracts available, trying to have conversations with people off to the side while one brother preaches. And this was one of the chants that we were met with. Racist, sexist, anti-gay, right-wing bigots, go away. Now, if you spend any time around leftists or watching media created by leftists, you'll soon realize that this tactic of just chants, right? Slogans, chants, name-calling, middle finger, this is standard fare of today's left, so nothing new there. I just wanted to kind of share with you some of my thoughts on that because, it's an interesting position to be in. And as a evangelist, as an apologist, a person whose mission is to go out and reason with people about God, about creation, about truth, these sorts of things, I would say it kind of puts us in a difficult position because, I was talking to my pastor today, and we met for lunch to talk about a 2nd John presentation that we're going to do, kind of a sermon or just a conversation really here in a couple weeks. But, I was telling him that when I was an atheist or a professing atheist 12 years ago, somewhere in there, 15 to 20 years ago, right in that range, I was still a person who believed in absolute truth. I just didn't believe that Christianity was true. And I told him, I said, this is something that I actually respect in intellectually honest atheists, because if me and another person both agree that there is absolute truth, that there is objective truth, that truth is not just subjective, it's not just a matter of social constructs, then we can begin an exchange of ideas. We can have a dialogue. We start from very, very different convictions, very different persuasions, but the working assumption of both of us is that there is truth that is discoverable, and there is truth that when we discover it, we can subject ourselves, right? We can, in a sense, surrender ourselves to that truth, wherever it lies. Now, of course, this is not part of the meta-narrative of today's so-called progressive left. These illiberal leftists who buy in wholeheartedly to the jargon of social constructs and relative truth, and you got to listen to a person's lived experience because that's their truth, and it's just completely changed. And it's obvious when you go to an event like this, what you're getting is not, okay, what does it build as? It's billed as a reproductive justice. So the pro-aborts are going to get together and they're going to bemoan the court ruling. But what actually happened, what we found was the entire narrative of the left, okay? It wasn't just about abortion. It wasn't just about SCOTUS, the decision in the Dobbs case. It also became about LGBTQ2IAS plus, wherever they are now, the alphabet soup, that entire issue, transgender rights, transgender men, whatever that means, competing in sports, climate change, global warming, alternative energies, just packing SCOTUS, the Supreme Court. It became literally about just about every single talking point on the left. Immigration, guns, gun rights. That was their real goal. That was their real objective, which really isn't a stretch. When you looked at the three of the organizations that sponsored this event were actually, in their title, socialists. Explicitly socialist organizations. And I think there were only 4 sponsors, 3 of them, right there in their title, socialists. So it's real clear. It's real clear where this is coming from. This is not, these are no longer moderate leftists who are doing these things. This is the fringe. It's the far left. Now, unfortunately, it's become mainstream. This is the two Americas, right? And the younger ideologues, they don't think for themselves. They just divest themselves of that and, let other people do the leading and the thinking for them. Hook, line, and sinker. And you saw so many examples of that. These chants, these little ditties that you'll have a figure like Mariah Parker, who is very unfortunately one of our county commissioners here, Clark County, leading a little ditty or a little chant because she's also an aspiring rap artist or R&B or whatever. And then all in unison, they're repeating after her all the chants, Mindlessness. These are not people who are equipped or prepared to or willing to think for themselves. That's why we get the kinds of responses we get. We get derision, we get slandered, we get called names, we get labeled as racist. Now, here's what now there probably are some people in there who would say, yeah, those guys are neo-Nazi skinhead types or white nationalists, white supremacists. But I would venture to say, if you ask them anonymously, and let's say they could win money by getting the right answer, if the majority of people on the other side in this rally really thought that me and my brothers over there were people who harbored real racist ideas, who were actively out to, suppress and exploit black people, other races, ethnicities. Of course, I believe there's only one race, but that's a different issue. I would venture to say that most of them don't actually think that's true. So why do they do it? Well, this goes along with their whole strategy. And their strategy is control the narrative. And this is very much a part of the whole philosophical movement that gave us critical race theory. It gave us BLM. It gave us queer theory. It's postmodern relativism. Okay, that's what it is philosophically. And one of the main assumptions there is truth is not that which corresponds to external reality. That is the standard historical philosophical definition of truth. But see, they start at the very foundation, the very base, and their goal is to reconstruct truth. Okay, so how do they do that? Truth is no longer defined as that which corresponds to reality. Rather, it is it's a narrative that can gain traction and that they can use to control people's thinking and behavior. A narrative that they can level for political and social advantage and control. That literally is their new definition of truth. Okay, it's not real truth. It's imaginary truth. It's relative truth. It's a social construct. That's why you hear them talk on and on and on about social constructs. And so if we start with that assumption, then it doesn't really matter if people are actually racist. It doesn't really matter if they're anti-gay, whatever that means. It doesn't really matter if they're sexist. If we can apply these labels and get enough people to agree with us, to chant with us, to bow to us, to nod to us, to defer their decision making to us, then that becomes true, right? That becomes a truth, not because it's actually true, not because it corresponds, but because it can be used and is being used for political control and advantage. And so that's the dirty little secret, really, at the heart of these social movements. And I really saw that on display there during this July 4th reproductive justice, right? There you go. Great euphemism. Reproductive justice, when the whole point is the idea that women, or I guess we don't call them women anymore, they call them birthing people now, right? Should have the right to terminate the pregnancy, right? i.e., murder the human embryo, the human person who is in the embryonic stage of development or the fetal stage of development, anytime and for any reason during the entire pregnancy. That's what they want there. And so, of course, their word games, their definitions, they manipulate all of this stuff. Why? To control the narrative. And so it's just fascinating to me. They throw the whole leftist ideology at you. They don't stay on topic with abortion. What do you think happens when you invite them? Say, hey, come over and reason. Let's talk about this. I want to hear your views. I'll listen and I'll share mine with you. What do you get? You get the, not that finger, but the 1, 2 over. That's what you get. Usually you get 2 of them, right? They won't use their brains. I tell them this all the time, how about, like, God gave you this wonderful 3-pound protoplasmic supercomputer, your brain, your mind. It's really a marvel of creation. Why don't you try using that to express yourself rather than your middle finger, right? Use reason, logic, field of science, evidence, embryology. Don't defer to other people, and certainly don't just give us this emotional, reflexive regurgitation that expresses itself by flipping people off. I've come to call this generation the middle finger generation, because it's so hard to get so many of these young people who have leftist leanings to engage in any type of dialogue or discussion. And this is the hard thing being an evangelist and apologist, is because I very much want to have those discussions. I'm absolutely willing to listen to anybody else up front. You tell me what you believe, why you believe that's true, why you're convinced that's true, how you came to that conclusion. I want to hear it. I really want to hear you flesh that out. I won't object right away. I won't listen. What I'll have at the end, whenever you tell me you're done explaining as much as you would like what you believe and why, I'll have some follow-up questions for you. Even before I start telling you what I believe, I just want to analyze deeply why that person is so persuaded of what they believe and why. Now, if I had my way, that's how all of these conversations would go. I wouldn't even go out and preach or whatever. I would just go out and ask people what they believe and why, and they'd open up and we'd have a conversation. That would be our starting point, But the problem is, fewer and fewer and fewer, really hardly anyone. I'm not going to say no one, because there are exceptions, but fewer and fewer and fewer, especially young people each year, are willing to do that. And so what option do we have? We can't compromise on truth. We can't go hide in a cave. We're not supposed to keep the faith and truth all to ourselves. We got to go out and plant our flag, right? We got to put truth on display. We've got to say, this is true. This is objectively true. This is true not because I believe it's true. This is the real state of reality. Here's why I believe that. I hope you respond to me in a way that we can discuss ideas. But even if you flip me off, even if you roll your eyes, even if you chant, even if you shout me down, even if you try to cancel me, whatever strategy you want to employ, I'm not going to back down, because truth really matters. It matters for not just this lifetime, but for eternity. And so what I want to ask you guys for is pray. I know it sounds very simple, but this takes a toll. I've been out most days since Roe v. Wade. Some days multiple times per day, 3 times a day, and taking the gospel, taking the pro-life position into the arena when we're catching a lot of crossfire. I'm certainly not going to make the claim that I always keep my cool and just completely level-headed. It never bothers me. It never frustrates me when person after person after person comes by flipping me off, calling me names, rolling their eyes, chanting. Yeah, I get frustrated with that. And there are times when I do not respond to that optimally. I could use your prayers for that. I realize that. That's something I take to the Lord each time. And even so, not recently, but that has burdened me so much multiple times in the past that I would kind of review what I said and be like, wow, I really blew that. And sometimes I really did. And I took that before the Lord and said, Lord, do you still want me going out and doing this type of ministry? And really was prepared to walk away from it entirely. And I would say I'd go a step further, even wanting, my preference being, I want to go do something else. I don't want to do this. And each of those times, the Lord very directly showing me, no, this is where I want you. Stay in the battle, see it out. Do better. I'll give you more grace. And so, yeah, I cover your prayers along those lines. And certainly if you know some people who don't agree with us about God, about salvation, about the direction, about the pro-life position, about God's plan for marriage and sexuality, and they want to have a serious discussion, and they want to share their views first and kind of, have that discussion with someone from our worldview. I'm happy to do that. If possible, me and Mary, we'll meet the person in person, get them lunch, get them coffee, have that discussion with them, learn what they believe and why. And we love to do that. That's what the Lord has called us to do. So pray for our heart, our attitude, opportunities, right? We want to see people come to truth. We want to see people obey the gospel. We want to see the blinders come off, the lies that are so easy to believe in this culture and society dispelled, the light of the gospel shining forth through all of that, and people really surrendering their lives to Jesus Christ. Thank you. And thank you for subscribing to my channel. I'm going to post up some more videos as the week goes on more about the abortion issue and just why that's so important. As a neuroscientist, as a cognitive scientist, I want to get into that a little bit. Why I'm convinced that the often appealed to consciousness criterion. It's not a human person because it's not yet conscious or significantly conscious. I want to get into that and demonstrate a little bit about why I'm convinced that argument fails. So stay tuned in. Thank you guys for watching. God bless you.